Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates, and Retirement Tax Partners with Nolan Baker and Chaz Price. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. That's 419-794-3030, online, arhq.com. Today on the show, is your 401k really a risky tech fund in disguise? We'll clear up any confusion over the deadline for a Roth conversion, and how you should plan if Social Security benefits are cut within the next 10 years. All this and more, but before we dive in, let me check in and say hello to a voice I haven't talked to in a while. Nolan, glad to be with you as always. Chaz, welcome back to the show. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Chris. It's good to be back on the show. It has been a while, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. Just trying to think. It's been a couple of months, I think, since we've been on the show. So back to be happy to be back in the headquarters and back on the show and ready to jump into some good topics for our listeners today. And it's timely, with tax season and just, all the volatility we've been seeing. I love an opportunity to, anytime I can, to reach out to clients and hope they take away something from today's show.
Yeah, just doing the same, just enjoying time. And last week or so, I had an opportunity to go out to Chicago with my son to watch a Blackhawks game, so enjoy a little bit of hockey. And the college that he's fairly well committed to, Florida Atlantic University, also got an opportunity to watch via YouTube the Florida ice hockey team, the Florida Atlantic Owls. They actually won the AAU College National Championship. So pretty exciting. He's going to try out. We'll see how obviously tryouts go with hockey, but they do have the two different teams down there and hopefully be part of the Owls. That was the first time in Florida Atlantic's history that they won the national champion. So pretty cool game to watch, but always trying to find myself watching a little bit of hockey just because of the kids,
Sounds good.
No, absolutely. Congratulations again to Florida Atlantic on that championship for sure. Making memories and enjoying the time with your son, Nolan, before he does set off for college. We appreciate both of you taking time out of your schedule to spend with the listeners and viewers today. Let's start by talking about some financial, quote-unquote, gurus, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman in particular. To their credit, they've helped many Americans when it comes to erasing debt and becoming more financially independent. But financial author David McKnight calls their approach to income planning a little different, more of a paint-by-numbers approach. He says a lot of their advice is, quote, outdated and one-size-fits-all. Now, I know that is not the case at America's Retirement Headquarters. It's no cookie-cutter approach. Let's talk about how your approach to retirement income planning is a little different.
I think our approach to retirement income planning is a little bit different. I would say, though, that I give, both Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman a lot of credit for a lot of the good advice that they give. I can think, younger into my career, I actually went through Dave Ramsey's program. And, one of the things that jumped out to me is the snowball effect of paying off the debts that you have. Mm-hmm. Years later, I can say, I don't have a car payment. I don't have credit card debt. I have my mortgage paid off. Before my kids went to college. So I got some really good advice. A lot of the people who've been listening for a while, you may remember that, in the Toledo Free Press for 8 years, we wrote the weekend financial column in the Toledo Free Press. And, also I had an opportunity to interview Susie Orman for one of the Free Press articles. And also she had some good advice. Chaz, I think what's hard here is when you think about it, they're talking to the masses, if you will. Right. So they're going to give out, I think, some really good advice, but it does make it a little bit more difficult. One of the things that I think about us here at America's Retirement Headquarters is, we take a little bit more of a customized approach versus, what you would refer to as a paint by the numbers or that cookie cutter type of an approach. In developing an approach and making things a little bit different when it comes to income planning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like you said, too, I'm a huge fan of Dave Ramsey. I was actually a Dave Ramsey coach. Took a couple, about 10 or 15 people through a church program that, they taught financial readiness through the Ramsey program. So, yeah, I do think there's a huge advantage to doing that for things like, getting out of debt and building a strong foundation, I do think some of those concepts can be cookie cutter and work, because it's kind of the same premise for budgeting is you have to spend less than what you're making, so that's pretty universal. But definitely retirement income planning is more personal, and it's definitely something that's based more on your experiences, your expenses, healthcare costs, your prospects for Social Security. There's no in your debt situation, in tax situation, so there's no way that Dave could know that. And so what we really start with, what I start with as a financial planner, is just trying to identify where clients have income gaps. I've talked about that in the past. Income gaps in retirement would be years where there's less coming in than what's going out. And once we can identify that, where those gaps are and for how long they're going to last, we can kind of back into some of the investment strategies and we're not letting the investments dictate what we can spend. We're telling the investments what they can do, because we're identifying a certain amount of money that's going to be there when it needs to be. And so, we're a little bit more customized and specific when it comes to what clients are spending. I think that's a big takeaway from our independent income system.
Yeah, I do think, how our approach to income planning is different is, again, that process that we call the independent income system. If you want to watch more on Google, you can type in the independent income system on Google and see a different video that talks about, the threats and opportunities facing retirees. But what we do is we create the buckets of money that are designed for different time frames. Again, looking at people that are just close to or in retirement time, having a bucket of money that's designed for reliable income. As Chaz mentioned, looking at making sure that we fill up the gaps to get enough reliable income to cover the minimum monthly income needs. We look at a bucket of money that's designed to give you a pay raise in the future. That way, if and when things get more expensive, if there's a cut in Social Security, you have an account that you can turn to. In the long-term growth bucket of money, utilizing things like equity-type investment strategies, looking at, trying to go direct to the market to pick out quality investments. And when you have those first couple of buckets, it gives you the ability where you can be more of a long-term investor with your equities. Last, having a bucket of money that's designed to cover different what-ifs or emergencies that come up in life. Developing then a plan that gives a purpose to each one of your financial accounts, then protecting that overall plan with developing a strategy that's designed to protect you in the event you have some type of healthcare crisis. Of course, we do that with our company, America's Medicare Associates, all the way down to then ultimately planning your estate, looking at anything like how to address the issue of a premature death for life insurance and legacy planning, to passing on, more money to your loved ones if there's money left over. So that is how our approach is different to income planning. Again, it's called the independent income system.
And again, it's a customized approach as opposed to, and this is by no means, taking shots at Dave Ramsey or the Susie Ormans out there, but they're designed to have their advice cover as many people as possible. But when it comes to retirement planning and income planning, you definitely want something that is more custom tailored and suited for you specifically, and that is what you get at America's Retirement Headquarters. So, as Nolan mentioned, Google the independent income system, check out that video, and then just go and open another tab. Set your website to arhq.com. Begin that process, set up a time to speak with the team at America's Retirement Headquarters, or you can also give a call. That's 419-794-3030. When the stock market goes down, people turn to things like CDs, bonds, and gold. The price of gold is up almost 15% this year to around $3,000 an ounce. Wealth manager Jeff Sika tells Fox Business that the White House and the Fed butting heads this year will probably push the price even higher.
A lot of the reasons why gold is rallying the way it is there is an anticipation that President Trump is going to influence Jerome Powell to cut rates, which will affect the dollar. And you're also seeing a tremendous amount of central bank buying of gold, more so than we've seen in history. So I would say 3,500, it sounds like a lofty target, but I think there's a real high probability we're going to get there.
Now, I have no doubt that you guys have been getting inquiries about this. If somebody wants to make gold a part of their retirement plan, in what form do you buy it, and what percentage of their holdings should it represent?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I have been getting a lot of questions about gold and how to play that part of the market. I think the first concept I want to share with our listeners is that, to me, gold, it's really a helpful hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty. But to me, it's not really a growth asset. And if you look back at history, the S&P 500 is vastly outperformed gold, over the last couple of decades. And so we just want to make sure that our clients treat it like a strategic diversifier, not necessarily a core holding. And so what that means for most investors, you're probably wanting to see, anywhere from a 5 to 10, maybe 15% overall holding in gold. But once we get to that determination of what sort of allocation we should be looking at, there's a couple of advantages and disadvantages to the various ways you can own gold. One way I'd like to joke around with my clients is when they say, hey, what do you think about gold? I'll tell them, well, maybe you want to buy your wife or your spouse a nice necklace or, a piece of jewelry. Because really, the physical, tangible bullion, gold, it has a lot of issues. One being, where are you going to put it? Where do you store it? It doesn't pay any dividends. It doesn't pay any interest necessarily. So it's nice to look at, but sometimes, unless you're thinking, end of days type strategy where we're going to be bartering, it's probably not going to be the most useful tool in your retirement tool belt. One area, and I know the firm uses pretty actively, is in the ETF space, where we're able to participate in the spot price of gold, but we don't personally own the physical bullion. But as you had mentioned, Nolan, that physical bullion is on deposit in some of in their storage facilities, right?
Yeah, and I know for many of you that are maybe watching this video on YouTube, maybe you're hearing this on our WSPD radio show, or maybe you just listened to it on Spotify, there's a great in-depth video that Chaz put together on the topic of investing in precious metals. If you go over to YouTube and check out our channel, America's Retirement Headquarters, hit the subscribe button. But in the search menu, type in investing in precious metals. There's a 19-minute segment that Chaz goes and dives a lot deeper into this particular topic. And as you're talking about, if we look at gold and, investing in gold, there are some, real advantages there. It can be an inflation hedge. It can be an asset that you can own, tends to perform well when we have geopolitical uncertainty, which, it seems like we have a lot of the financial market turmoil right now. There's things that, can make that a lot of sense. But as you talk about with some of the negatives, unlike, let's say, a CD or a bond or something that pays a fixed rate of return, unlike a dividend paying stock, one of the negatives with precious metals or gold is you're not going to get that, consistent income out of it. You talked about the storage. I can remember, when my kids were little, I had took them to one of our local gold, silver, and coin dealers because I wanted them to experience what it was like actually buying that. The challenge with that is it's not as regulated as what the stock market is. So, meaning the price you pay to buy gold or silver or coins compared to what you sell them for is not necessarily as transparent as, when you buy or sell a stock on a public market exchange. In addition to that, if you take that at home and let's say somebody puts it in their basement in the safe, besides getting it out once a year to kind of look at it, you're like, ooh, that looks good. Yeah. And, putting it back in, you have issues of storage. You have, issues of potential risk there. So like, again, if somebody, came into the house and they stole that, if that wasn't on your,
almost like
home
Bitcoin.
and auto insurance, it could be money that's not protected. So you've got to think about a kind of a safe place. And you had mentioned, short term, it's been going good, can be an area to take a look at now. But if you look at it and compare it over a 20-year time frame, the stock market has proven to be, kind of more of the growth engine. Mm-hmm. We realize, though, that we're in this environment right now where, precious metals, gold specifically in your retirement can give you a little bit more peace of mind. And the portfolio that I'd like to highlight is called our all-weather portfolio. So within our all-weather portfolio, what I like about that portfolio is we added in 3 different investment components that really it's designed to kind of be here regardless of what the the weather or the market is and the environment on Wall Street. So we've got about a third of the portfolio that's invested into equities. So we still have that equity component. Mm-hmm. Then we have a third of the money that's invested into managed futures. So again, giving us kind of an interest rate play, gives us a little bit of exposure to commodities. And then a third of it is using some physical gold. And we have it, our main relationship that we work with is Charles Schwab. So some of these larger custodians allow you to have some of the gold exposure in these ETFs. The one that we have is physical gold. So you've kind of got that peace of mind having it held in a large custodian. There's good name companies like, Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab that allow you to have that exposure. When you blend those assets together, what you end up with is a risk score of 24 out of 100. So because of the fact that not everything zigs and zags in the same direction, giving you a lower risk. And I think right now with uncertainty that people have, looking at steps to lower their risk from just equities, in this type of environment could spell a good strategy. Still at the same point, if we continue to have these runs either in equities, commodities, managed futures, gold, precious metals, that combination can do really well when you look at what some of the stats that are out there. So our all-weather portfolio could be a good solution.
Yeah, and what's amazing, and as an advisor, what I love about that is when Connor brought that to my attention, the individual securities themselves are like when we talk about risk level, we think about it in terms of a speed limit. So if you're going 25 miles an hour, you get that there's very little risk there. Well, on the individual basis, each one of those investments might be in a 70 to a 90 somewhere in there. But when you add them together, Harry Markowitz in Modern Theory really shows through in that by adding risk, you actually ultimately reduce the risk of the portfolio. So it's that kind of outside of the box thinking, instead of just looking at traditional investments and saying, oh, well, historically 60%, if you want to be conservative, should be in bonds. Well, in 2022, folks lost 20% of their portfolio owning bonds. So right. It might be a little different now. You may need an advisor that's going to be a little bit more active, a little bit more responsive in these tumultuous times, because it's just not as easy anymore as to take a 10-question questionnaire and slam somebody into a 60-40 portfolio and say they're good.
It may involve more of a hands-on approach. And the good news is that it doesn't have to be your hands utilizing the skill set of a team like America's Retirement Headquarters, whether it is with their all-weather portfolio or something different as it pertains to your risk level and your beliefs and what you want to look at as far as investments go. That, again, goes back to that customized approach we were talking about a few minutes ago. So if you're curious, you want to know more about this or, maybe how to utilize gold in your portfolio, reach out, set up a time to speak with the team at America's Retirement Headquarters. That number, 419-794-3030, or you can go to the website and reach out there as well. Remember, that's arhq.com. We have certainly heard of people leaving their jobs due to burnout, but one psychologist says there's something new that is emerging that he is calling bore-out, when workers feel, underwhelmed. And it's been more noticeable with the shift to remote and hybrid work in the past couple of years. A new survey found that retirees can also suffer from bore-out. It shows that of the seniors who recently unretired, more than a third of them said it was just quite frankly because of boredom. Now, when retirees come to you seeking advice on an encore career, what do you tell them? Do you address the bore-out factor before they retire?
I think there's definitely advice for retirees who want to unretire. And, when you think about the area of unretirement, I think first, number one, you want to clarify your why. Chaz, I know you do a lot of financial plans, and we run financial plans, and we're looking at different scenarios for folks. And, for some folks who end up going back to work, maybe they do some part-time work, maybe they do some consulting work. The why could come down to the need of additional income. It could be a situation like some clients that I have where she works 2 days a week, but because of her working 2 days a week, they're able to get health care to bridge the health care needs until they get to age 65. It could be more for social interaction. I know now that hockey season is over for my son, my weekends have become a little bit more free and clear, and I'm not always on the go. But if I sit down at home for a day or two and I don't do something, I definitely would get boredom. So I think, some retirees definitely get bored as well. They They want to utilize their talents that they have. I think sometimes it could be, doing it through a source of generated income, or, also using it as an opportunity for charities and getting more involved in the things that are out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to look at your why.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's definitely a difference between being forced back to work and just not having, enough to do. And so you're going to, find something to do and find something to do with your time. So yeah, I would agree with that. It just kind of comes to mind, a book that I read. It's called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It was a couple of years ago, but he talked about a concept of mini retirements. And this is kind of something maybe some of our clients might, if you're already retired or if you're approaching retirement, this might be an option. But instead of waiting until your 60s and 70s, he says, take little mini retirements throughout life. Take some time off if you have the ability. Travel for a couple of months, take a sabbatical, and explore a hobby, learn some new skills, travel abroad maybe, and then go back to work. If you are, if you have the ability to do that, and kind of just you're utilizing your life energy while you have it most. You're still kind of in the work mode. You're revitalizing yourself. So that's a solution. If I have the option to do that, but definitely, it's a difficult one to think about, because once you retire, most people I would think wouldn't want to go back, but it sounds like there's a lot of folks that are, going back to work through boredom. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you do unretire, the other thing is you want to understand the financial impact. So, maybe somebody who was able to retire at the age 60 and maybe they kicked on Social Security at 62, because a lot of people will start Social Security at 62, but what they don't understand is that they do go back to some type of full income and their income goes too high before they reach their full retirement age, they could suffer significant benefits and reductions of Social Security by working. The issues like taxes, how is going back to work going to impact things like your Medicare premiums because of IRMA and excess Medicare premiums that you have? If you're over the required minimum distribution age, how is it going to impact those type of things? So, unretiring, I think, can give you a lot of flexibility. There can be some significant positives, whether it is designed to go back to work to generate income. Maybe you're going to use your life's talents to help, and if income isn't an important issue. Maybe it's, serving our veterans or a philanthropic organization. I know Courtney at the office would probably love to volunteer at an organization that helped animals and puppies, right?
And cats.
Yes.
I love cats.
She'd do that all day long. And, she'd unretire just to be able to spend some time. You got to figure out your why. What we can do at our office is help you figure out the how and also figure out the impact, and then develop a plan where it kind of overlaps to talk to you about what that looks like when you decide to unretire.
Yeah. And the term I use sometimes with my clients is don't just retire from something, retire into something.
Whether it is a phased retirement, if you've got the luxury of that, just kind of taking a slow step, dipping your toe into the pool, so to speak, or unretiring, hopefully out of desire rather than necessity. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It doesn't have to be this finite chapter where you retire and that's the end of the story. You do want to make sure that you understand what the implications are either way, whether it is health care, how you're going to take care of that, or perhaps Social Security getting taxed because you're making too much money, but understanding what getting back into the workforce or continuing to stay in the workforce can look like. It's just another set of the numbers that the team at America's Retirement Headquarters can run for you and help show you what that's going to look like. All it takes to begin that process, reaching out, setting up a time, start putting a plan in place for whatever your retirement goals may look like. You can do that by giving a call, 419-794-3030. One last time, that's 419-794-3030. Or you can go to the website, arhq.com. As always, want to thank you for joining us here on the show, joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thanks so much. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, kind of ended on the topic of unretiring. It talks about the next chapter, so we'll be back with your next chapter on the How to Retire series here on Toledo's largest talk station, of course, on your favorite podcast and our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Either way, we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. And just remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home for your entire retirement.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.